Good morning, you. Today, you and I are going to figure out this whole vlogging situation. The plan is to figure out a brand, figure out an idea, and by the end of this video, hopefully have something that can put us on the right track to make sure that these videos connect with more people like you and I. I don't really know what I'm doing, and there are a few problems before we even, go into it. But before we talk about those problems, I got to go get ready, grab breakfast with my wife, and go on a walk, and you're coming with me. One of the best parts of being married is you have a wife like mine who makes you bagels in the morning. Thank you, darling. It's also my wife's first day at her new job. How are you feeling about it?
Sorry, I got a cold. I'm a little bit nervous.
Why are you nervous? And there she is. The dog that's about to go on her walk. Hey, Bonnie. Okay, so what's this problem that I was referring to? When it comes to vlogging, back in the day, it was much easier to basically talk about anything and do anything because the internet was new. A lot's changed since then. People in society have grown, and so the average thing or activity doesn't necessarily interest people as much as it would have in 2008 or in 2007. On top of that, no one on this app currently knows me for anything. And so I have to ask myself that if I'm gonna be vlogging, what exactly am I going to be vlogging about? I've got a couple of ideas of what that is, and I've got a couple of ideas of how to approach that. But before I explain what my ideas are, I've got to give you a bit of context into how content creation kind of works. And I'll do that after our walk. Right, so we are back from the walk, and there she is, running around in the garden, and I need to clean up her poop from the garden. So as I'm doing that, I'm gonna explain to you what the context behind this whole content thing is. In content, there are 3 or 4 categories that all content essentially fit into. They are demonstration, investigation, education, and insight, okay? So investigation is quite a popular format. That's like the Mr. Beast format, The value that kind of content brings is that you're testing things, testing all the best restaurants or I don't know, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's quite a popular format, so that's investigation. 1 second, sorry, I'm just separating these poo bags. The other format is demonstration. Now, the thing about demonstration is it's one of those on TikTok where you see the people who are like, a smile can make someone's day. And the purpose of those videos is to demonstrate the outcome of a quality or a behavior that is deemed either desirable or undesirable, right? In the case of the compliment thing, it's desirable behavior. That's not like the only type of investigation that we can do. The only type of demonstration we can do. I'm trying not to get the poo on my hands. But it's just the most popular example, right? You're demonstrating the outcome of a desired behavior. And then there's education. Oh, I got a little bit of poo on my hand. Fuck. Anyway, then there's education, and that's just standard educational videos. How to do this, how to do that. And then there's your insight videos, right? Insight is when you are let into the process of something meaningful and valuable. Obviously, what's considered valuable depends on who your target audience is, but that's what insight is, okay? Now, if your content, or at least my content, doesn't fit into at least one of these 3 categories, then there's no way for me to convey any kind of meaningful value to my audience. And so naturally, that's the question I'd have to begin asking myself. And I think that vlogs are a form of insight, because if I'm not giving you insight into, a life or a dynamic or a situation or a context that you wouldn't otherwise have access to, then what value would you have in watching the video? Just watching me do random stuff, it wouldn't make any sense. And so the question then becomes, okay, if I'm doing vlogs as a form of insight to people, what is my story? And that has this whole other thing to it that I'll explain after I'm done picking up the poop. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. So Bonnie destroyed that couch and we need to take it to the tip. There used to be 2 couches out here and a bunch of furniture, but we took that with my mother-in-law. That needs to go. Okay, so unfortunately, it's past 9 o'clock and I'm on a new diet where I can't eat between 9 and 5, intermittent fasting. So I didn't have a big breakfast today either, so I'm kind of fucked. But for the last part of the video, the whole, what's the insight gonna be? I'm going to go upstairs into the office because I've got to get ready to go to work anyway, and we can kind of talk about it there. Okay, so before we talk about anything content-wise, my wife tidied up this room yesterday, and this morning it's an absolute tip. So I'm going to spend some time cleaning up, doing my husband duties, and then we will talk about content later. So, okay, so everything is reasonably tidy. I need to hoover the floors, but I can do that when I'm back. I've got to put this iron in its rightful place because I'm a happily married man and I want to keep it that way. So, for context, there's a woman who does these vlogs. She's really, really good. I can't remember what her name is, but she does these vlogs. She's like day in the life of a 20-year-old doctor, right? And I found that concept to be so interesting because it's like, okay, well, I'd love to see what that looks like, but not just because she's a doctor, but because she's a 20-year-old doctor. So there's this like contrast, there's like conceptual contrast in her narrative or her story, being that she's somebody doing something that we wouldn't expect her to do, and that's kind of what draws us in to want to figure out what that looks like anyway. And so we can kind of contextualize everything from her doing a 5 a.m. shop to her going on a date with her boyfriend through that kind of umbrella. And so the question I'd have for myself is like, what's my contrast? What's my story? And the only thing that I can think of currently is being a 29-year-old struggling artist, right? I'm not sure how strong that is, to be honest with you. I might do a bit of thinking and change it. So if by the time you're watching this video, that's not the title, then I probably thought of something better. But that's what I think is going to be the umbrella that I'm going to use to contextualize everything, because that might create a narrative around me. Plus, that kind of bleeds into my whole, my song structure, my brand structure, all this kind of stuff. So that's like the direction I'm going in. But I do have to start getting ready to work. I'm gonna do that, and then, anyway, that's my first vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.